Early spring is the most exciting time to be a gardener. The days are getting longer, the light is starting to look a little different, and the garden is starting to wake up just a little bit. It's very tempting to jump in and start things right away. But here's the problem. Early spring is also when a lot of gardeners accidentally create issues that slow their gardening down for weeks or even months without realizing it. In this video, we're going to talk about the early spring gardening mistakes and, most importantly, how to avoid them. One of the biggest mistakes that early spring brings us is that we think it's time to get going. Air temperatures rise quickly in the spring, but soil temperatures lag far behind. Roots don't respond to sunshine the way leaves do. They respond to warmth in the soil. When soil is cold, roots slow down nutrient uptake. Microbial activity decreases and plants enter kind of a survival mode rather than a growth mode. This is why plants can sit in the ground for weeks without changing much. They aren't failing, they're waiting. Cold soil can also create stress for more tender plants and weaken them long term. Even if they survive, they may never catch up to plants that were planted later into warmer conditions. A healthier strategy in early spring is to observe soil conditions closely. Waiting for the soil to warm up will create a stronger root system, leading to more resilient plants in the season. If you ever need help for deciding what's appropriate for your garden right now, drop us a comment below and we will do our best to help. After winter rains, soils can hold a lot of moisture, especially in more heavy clay areas. Early spring excitement often leads gardeners to dig, turn, and amend soil as soon as it's accessible. The problem is that wet soil is extremely vulnerable to compaction. When you press on it, whether with tools or even your feet, the soil particles collapse together. This eliminates air pockets that roots and beneficial organisms rely on. Once soil structure is damaged, it doesn't easily repair itself. Plants struggle to develop deep root systems, water drainage becomes inconsistent, and nutrient availability drops. This is one of the most long-lasting early spring mistakes because it affects the entire growing season. Healthy soil structure is built slowly. It can be destroyed in a single afternoon of working wet soil. Letting the soil dry just enough before working it protects all the plants later. Early spring cleanup feels so productive. Removing old stems, dried leaves, and last year's growth makes the garden look tidy and refreshed. But what looks like dead material is often still serving an important purpose. Many perennials protect their new growth at their base with old stems. Removing that protection too early exposes tender shoots to temperature swings and late frosts. There's also a hidden ecosystem at work. Beneficial insects overwinter in hollow stems, leaf litter, and plant debris. When everything is removed too soon, those beneficial populations are lost before they can help control pests later. A more thoughtful approach is to clean gradually. Waiting until consistent warmth allows plants and insects to transition naturally into the growing season. And if you're thinking ahead for a full spring garden, be sure to pre-order your perennials now, available online at wildwoodexpress.com, or come in store for a full seed selection, and it is huge. Pruning is often seen as a spring ritual, but timing matters more than the season itself. Many shrubs and perennials form their flower beds months in advance. When spring flowering plants are pruned too early, the plant itself may remain healthy, but the entire year's display of flowers is lost. Another issue with early spring pruning is encouraging premature growth. Cutting plants back can stimulate new shoots, which are especially vulnerable in late cold snaps. Understanding how and when each plant grows transforms pruning from a guessing game into a tool that actually improves structure, health, and flowering. For early spring bloomers like lilacs, forsythia, flowering currant, magnolia, and many types of flowering cherries, pruning should happen right after they finish flowering, not in early spring. These plants form their flower buds the previous year. If you prune them late winter or early spring, you're not hurting the plant, but you're removing the entire season's blooms before they ever open. Roses follow a slightly different pattern. Most shrub and hybrid roses are pruned in late winter to very early spring, just as the buds begin to swell but before active growth takes off. This timing helps shape the plant and encourages strong new canes without pushing growth too early. Climbers are usually pruned after their main bloom, because many of them flower on older wood. Hydrangeas are where a lot of early spring mistakes happen. Hydrangeas that bloom on old wood, like big leaf or mountain hydrangea, should be lightly cleaned up in the spring, removing dead wood once new growth appears. Heavy pruning is best done after flowering, if at all. Hydrangeas that bloom on new wood, like pinnacle or smooth hydrangeas, can be safely pruned in late winter or early spring because they form flowers on the current season's growth. Understanding these patterns removes a lot of frustration. When pruning is timed to the natural plant's health cycle, you get a healthier structure, better flowering, and far less risk of damage in a cold snap. Seeing plants for sale creates a powerful sense of urgency. It's easy to assume that if plants are available, they must be ready for the garden. But many warm season plants are grown in protected environments. Once placed into cold soil, they experience shock. Growth slows, roots stop expanding, and plants become more susceptible to disease. Early spring planting is not about planting everything, it's about planting the right thing. Cold season crops are adapted to fluctuating temperatures and can handle early conditions. Warm season plants need consistency, warmth, and patience. Matching plants to the season rather than the calendar reduces stress on you, the gardener, and the plant itself. Late frosts are one of the most emotionally sensitive setbacks to any gardener. Plants look established, new growth may be visible, and then a single cold night causes damage. Frost affects young plants more severely because their cells are full of water and easily ruptured by freezing temperatures. Containers, raised beds, and newly planted seedlings are particularly vulnerable. Ignoring frost risk often leads to repeating planting, slowed growth, and unnecessary plant loss. Awareness and preparation are key to early spring gardening. Start by knowing your local frost dates and keeping an eye on the forecast. Next, have protective tools ready. Row covers, frost blankets, old sheets, couches, or even upside down buckets can save your plants overnight. The key is to cover them before the temperature drops, not after you notice the damage. Make sure that the cover doesn't touch the delicate leaves directly, as that can cause freezing damage. Another tip is using thermal mass. Place rocks, bricks, or water-filled containers near seedlings. They absorb heat during the day and release it at night, helping buffer against cold snaps. Early spring watering habits are often carried over from our summer routines, but plants behave very differently in cold weather. Water evaporates more slowly, roots absorb less moisture, and soil remains wet longer. This creates oxygen-deprived conditions that lead to root rot, fungal issues, and stunted growth. Plants that appear yellow or weak in early spring are often suffering from too much water, not too little. Learning how to let the soil breathe encourages healthier roots and encourages long-term resilience. Fertilizing too soon can feel proactive, but can shoot you in the foot later. Rapid growth before roots are established produces soft, fragile tissue. These plants are more attractive to pests, more vulnerable to cold, and less able to support themselves later. Early spring growth should be steady, not explosive. Building soil health rather than encouraging top growth leads to plants that are more stronger, more healthier, and will produce a better plant in the growing season. Weeds take advantage of early spring conditions faster than any cultivated plant. While they're small and shallow-rooted, they're easy to manage. Once they establish, they compete aggressively for water, nutrients, and space. Early intervention prevents weeks of maintenance later. Early spring weed management is about prevention. In early spring, plants look small and manageable, but gardeners don't stay in early spring forever. Without planning for mature size, spacing, and sun exposure, gardens quickly become overcrowded. This leads to poor air circulation, increased disease, and consistent maintenance issues later. Taking time to plant early creates a garden that's easier to manage and far more enjoyable as it grows. Gardens reward observation, patience, and intention. When early decisions support long-term growth, everything that follows becomes easier. And if you'd like more guidance as the season unfolds, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.